Gary Gregg Golden Gate Palms right here in Lafayette, California. We just put a few trees in. And I had a request from my client. There he is. That's Allan. You're never going to guess how old Allan is. Since I want to live to 120, I'm always looking for like biohack things, right? Is that not the best looking, youngest looking 82-year-old you've ever seen? I think I want to see an ID. He looks like he can take me down in one-on-one basketball right now. Anyway, Allan requested that, and we're going to hear some tips from Allan at the very end on how he looks so good and how he had some yoga this morning. I know that. So we're going to find out what he eats, all his little tricks. He's got good hair too. Anyway, Allan requested that I do a video so that not only he but everyone else could like know how the flowering and fruiting works on all these avocado trees. So, and the timing of everything, especially the timing. So there's A-B flowering. That's a long story. We're not going to get into that here, but you always want to get an A flower type and a B flower type. Here we have a Zutana, which is a B flower type that complements the A flower types of gem and reed. We already have a big Hass avocado up next to the house. There's actually a couple fruit on it. That's also an A variety. So the Zutana B variety will help pollinate these guys. They're self-fruitful, but they're much more fruitful when you have complementary flowering. That's all I'm going to say about that. That's the short story. All right, but what we want to know, what Allan's most concerned about is when can I eat my avocados, Gary? When are they coming? What do I got to do? All right, so right now it's March 3rd. So I always tell everybody that these trees will actually start flowering in March and they won't stop flowering until the end of June. They'll probably do most of their flowering in the middle in April. Okay, if you come over here closely, you'll see that I noticed that there are a few of these flowers that are actually open right now. Here they are. This one's flowering like crazy. This is a gem. This makes me a little nervous, I was telling Allan. Sometimes these trees flower so much and all the energy goes into the flowers that the tree loses all its leaves, freaks out, and then problems can happen. The problems that can happen, it loses all its leaves, you get a big heat wave when there's no foliage on the tree. You can have sunburn on the bark, and that can really cause a tailspin for this tree. Usually, if everything's going right, you'll get new leaf push right after the flowering. In fact, you can see the new leaf push here. Already in March, early March, we're seeing some new leaf push. That'll happen on the ends first, and then it'll start happening further down as we progress through the season. So, back to the flowering. If you see a tree like this flowering like crazy at this small little size, you know, this is thousands of flowers on this little tree here. Each one of these things, probably each bract has like 10, 15, 20 individual flowers on them. So what you can do if you have the time, you can come up and start trimming off some of these flowers, get rid of them. That way the energy gets diverted into leaf push and also to the remaining flowers that are on the tree. A tree like this, that's about 5 feet tall, it's probably 5, 6, 7 years old. I would say not let it have more than five avocados, 6, 7 avocados at the most at this stage, and then proportionally more as it gets larger. Why is that? The fruit takes tons of energy. It'll take it away from the tree if it's allowed to go to full maturity, and that could go to the detriment of the tree. What we really want in these trees for the first few years is lots of leaf growth, aggressive root growth, and we can get that to the maximum degree if we sacrifice our flowers and our fruit. Well, everybody wants some fruit. Allan, do you want some fruit?
Absolutely.
Allan's gonna want a few fruit just for fun for the first year. So I'm like, okay, Allan, look, when they're done flowering at the end of June, you're gonna come out here, maybe like June 15th, you're gonna see a bunch of little peas attached to where the flowers were. Those are baby avocados. Now, I told Allan maybe you should cut off all of them except for maybe the largest 5, 6, 7, 8. They're going to drop a whole bunch off naturally, but sometimes they don't drop enough. And you'll have like fruit all over the tree. The tree just goes into a tailspin. It's like a mom being pregnant with 20 kids. What do you think a mom would do if she had 20 kids in her all at the same time, Allan? She'd be miserable, right? Yeah, we don't want that. All right, so that's kind of like what you do here. Now, the thing is that they all flower sort of in the same sequence. Some of the more tropical trees will flower a little bit later than the less tropical trees. The more tropical trees are Nabal, reed, even Hass, the more Guatemalan genes in them. The more Mexican types like Zutana, they might flower a little earlier just because they're higher in elevation in Mexico versus Guatemala, lower elevation trees. So that's another long story. But all right, so for this tree here, this is Gem. Let's look at all our trees. Let's go through all of them. We'll start with the one that's going to fruit first. Okay, so these trees will take at least 8 months to make mature fruit to eat off the tree. Here's our reed, and we're going to get down here and take a look at Zutana. You see this really favorable microclimate right here. This whole area faces south, lots of sun. That's what these trees love. Here's our Zutana right here. It has this big, beautiful leaf, one of the most beautiful leaves of all the avocados. Really lush, super vigorous tree. This one is going to flower now, just like the rest of them. This will be the first one that we have on this site that will be ready to eat. This will be ready to eat in February of next year. So that's going to take probably 10 months from flowering to be ready to eat. You'll have the fruit hanging on the tree, and you look at it and you'll think, oh yeah, that looks good. You pick it, and then it shrivels up. That's because you picked it too early. If it shrivels up, you're going to want to wait another 10 days, pick another one, and then put it on your counter. It's going to take about 10 days after you pick the fruit to get nice and soft and eat it. Then if it's good and edible, you say, okay, mark that date down. Say it's probably like February 1st, February 15th, whatever that may be. Then you can say, okay, I know that my Zutana fruit at this particular site, all sites are going to be a little different. The inland sites, they fruit sooner. The coastal sites fruit later. The inland sites, the fruit won't hang on the tree as long because everything moves faster because of the heat. The coastal sites will have fruit hanging for a longer period. So all these things are different wherever you happen to be. But at my house in Lafayette, which is not far from here, this is the schedule for my Zutana is pick February 1st, the earliest, and they'll hang on the tree until July 1st. So that's the Zutana. Now let's move along. The reed is the most tropical avocado that we have here. And it also has a really beautiful foliage in a different kind of way. It's very dense, it's very shiny. It has just a beautiful sort of curvature to it. I really like the foliage on this tree. It's a very beautiful tree. This one will usually flower a little bit later than the Gem is opening flowers right now. This one doesn't have any open flowers on it whatsoever, so it's on a slightly different schedule. But they will overlap for sure going through the season. Now, this reed, because it's more tropical, it takes more time. It needs to cook on the tree longer. So this one here is not going to be ready to eat until, right now it's 2025. It's March 4th or 3rd or somewhere around there. But this one's not going to be ready to eat until July of 2026. So we're going to get little fruit right here on these trees. And then this is going to have to sit here for 14 months on the tree. In fact, next year, when we have full-size fruit in the tree that aren't quite ready to pick yet, in April, May, and going into June, we're going to have flowering. We're going to have little fruit on the tree and big fruit at the same time. There's a fruit overlap. And sometimes these can hang on so long that you can have fruit from like 2 years before. So you could have a big mature fruit that has a very dull green color to it, then a newer one from the previous year that's just barely ready to eat, one at the very end of its pick period, one at the very beginning of its pick period, and that's a lighter green, and then tiny little ones from the current flowering year. So it's quite intriguing. The best ones of all are the ones that have been hanging on the tree the longest. So they build up oil. The longer they're on the tree, the more oil they build up, the richer they get. So keep that in mind. But I've had trees like Little Cado at my house have edible fruit on them at a whole year later. So they flower in April, May, June. Then the following June, they're ready to eat. Then that same crop stays on the tree until the following June after that. And then you have fruit that's 2 years old, fruit that's 1 year old, and fruit that's just been born. And so you want to pick the oldest fruit first. All right, so that's the schedule on that one. That one's going to be ready to eat, I'd say June through possibly the next June. And then the Gem will be ready to eat a little sooner than that, probably more like April, May, June of the following year after it sets fruit. So when this one sets fruit very soon, we will have to wait a whole year for this thing to be ready to eat. And let's see, this is the point At which we ask Allan, do you have any more questions? Did I cover everything?
Yeah, well, the painting.
Oh, okay. We're going to talk about the painting. These trees are from forest conditions. Look at the forest over here, right? This is an oak forest, okay? You have tree next to tree, next to tree, next to tree, next to tree. When you have a big forest like this, which is very similar to how the avocados developed, imagine a forest like that in the mountains of Mexico or Guatemala. Well, the sun, when it's overhead, hits the tops of the trees. As the sun goes down on its angle, it never really hits the trees because there's always trees in the way that are further back. And so there's all this filtered light that comes through. That's not true when we put these things out in full sun conditions here. And we have lower humidity than where these trees are from in their native habitat. What does that mean? That means that the sun's going to come in here and it's going to hit this bark and beat on it, and it can totally sunburn it. And then just like a constricted artery, once it's sunburnt, it doesn't conduct any of its nutrients and water flow on that part of the stem. It only relies upon the back area. So that really constricts it. It really limits the amount that it can grow. So what do you do to counteract that? You get 1/3 white latex paint. You mix that with 2/3 water. You come out here just like the Karate Kid did, kind of zen with a little paintbrush, and you paint on wherever you think that sun is going to hit these open stems. Now, when you see a bunch of leaves like in here, these leaves are going to protect this bark with shifting shade. But I could see right here, the sun's going to come in here. If Allan's a bad dad, which I don't think he is, but if he was, we get a 100-degree day and this will turn all black and this tree won't grow as fast. And if you get enough sunburn action, it can actually turn the tree into a death spiral. The worst death spiral is when you have a huge flowering, all the energy goes to the flowers, leaves drop because of that, fruit sets because of all the flowering, new leaves don't come because there's no energy left for the new leaves to be created. Next thing you know, like June 1st happens, you get 115 degrees, it cooks the naked tree, and then you're calling Gary up going, I don't know why my tree looks so bad, but it's because you didn't listen to the video and paint the tree, maybe cut off some flowers, cut off some fruit. That's not going to happen to Allan because he knows. This is the second time I've gone over this, and he has the video, so you have no excuse.
Nope.
No excuses.
None at all.
All right.
Just make sure you send me the video.
All right, Allan.
All
right. Any more questions?
Nope, that's it. Good.
So what's your trick? What do you eat? How do you look so good?
Well, everybody has their own path, you know.
What? Yeah. What do you do?
First of all, you got to have good genes. But,
yeah, you need good genes.
But what I do is I do everything in moderation.
Right.
The way I eat no packaged foods.
Yep.
Stay away from all chemicals. You know, everything should be fresh if you can. Sugar, refined sugar, worst thing you can put in your body. You know, and I stay away from that. And then exercise.
Right.
Never stop exercising.
And what's your favorite kind of food? Like, what do you eat the most of?
Mostly fish, probably. I don't eat no meat. You
No
know.
meat.
Stay away from meat.
But fish.
Yeah, fish. You know, I mean.
Tons of vegetables.
You can eat meat once in a while.
Right.
Because your body, if anything you put in your body, if your body can't process it very well, you shouldn't eat it for 4 days. It takes 4 days to finally get it out of your system.
So what do you limit yourself to less than like 5 Big Macs a week? Or?
Yeah, no Big Mac.
No Big Mac.
No fast food.
All right. Well, this is great news. Yeah, he's an inspiration. Thanks, Allan, for having us over, giving us all the tips to live to 120. What's your goal? 120?
No, just to stay physically healthy. That's all.
As long as possible.
I don't care. I mean,
All right.
There's no goal for.
My goal is to look like you when I'm 120.
Well, that'll be.
And I want to dunk on all my 40-year-old friends at that point. All right, that's it, everybody. That's how you get your avocados, and that's how you live forever.